Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to Tower of God New World. In today's video, I wanted to have a quick talk with you guys and talk about why I feel like damage over time is probably going to be the meta in the future. So after I did my Lilio guide review video, I looked at her kit even more, and I just questioned myself. I was like, there is no way that Net Marble they're going to drop a unit that can activate damage over time so much, and there's not a single support unit that's going to enable, her damage over time, because there's not one support character that can amplify bleed damage, poison damage, or whatever. There's not a single support unit that can amplify damage over time. So you have Lilio, who's pretty much dealing bleed damage constantly. Shalil, she has damage over time in her ultimate. Like, if we look at her ultimate right here, she has constant damage in her ultimate, but she doesn't really activate it that much for her active skill. Another unit that can also do damage over time is Vespa. Kaseya also has damage over time. She has bleed damage. I'm pretty sure Vargarv also has bleed damage as well. When we take a look at Vargarv, does he actually have? Yes, he does have it. So Vargarv also has bleed damage in his kit. And then I'm pretty sure Lurker Kim, if we look at Lurker Kim as well, does Lurker Kim actually have bleed damage? Let me see. No bleed damage there, no bleed damage there. It's probably in his ultimate. I think it's the wound. I think it's the wound that I think that's what his damage over time is. It's just a wound. So there are so many units that have damage over time in their kit, but the problem is we don't have a character that can enable them to deal insane damage over time. So some people said that Lilio, like, it's a fact that her damage is terrible. Like, it's just a fact. Like, her damage is just completely irrelevant. It's terrible. But some people said that she's actually useful for her CC with, like, paralyzing and stunning, uh which is, it's fair. But, like, why would I waste all of my summons on a character who can just stun and paralyze when I already have Red Mask Club? You know what I'm saying? It's like, sure, she can CC, she's very tanky, but her whole kit revolves around damage. You have bleeding coming from her active skill Pincer. You have bleeding coming from her active skill Valiant Strike, got it from her ultimate, plus her passive, she's gaining a 160% attack boost. So it's pretty obvious that, this character was designed to be a DPS unit, but she just fails at dealing damage. So my only hope for this unit is that we are probably going to have a support unit in the future who's going to amplify damage over time. Maybe it's going to be Albelda, who knows? But yeah, man, like, this unit, she's just a disappointment. Just a disappointment. But I can see the potential if we have a support character in the future that can amplify her kit. Now, would damage over time be bad in this game? Overall, no. It wouldn't be bad because it's just it just introduces variety. It introduces variety because when we take a look at most of the team comps in the game, people are mostly, using characters like Kaiser. You got Punisher Rin, you got Child Yuri, you got all of these DPS units, and one thing that they all have in common is they only deal physical and magic damage. They don't really have anything unique in their kit. Of course, they have summon, summon beast. I mean, I'm pretty sure Kaiser has basic attack damage. Yes, I wanted to talk about that. Basic attack damage. You guys remember basic attack damage before Kaiser got released? Nobody cared about basic attack damage. Nobody cared. When Novik dropped, he amplified a basic attack, but it wasn't really valuable because there wasn't a unit that can pretty much, how can I say this? There wasn't a unit that can perform very, very well while dealing basic attack damage. And as soon as Kaiser came into the picture, basic attack damage is just insane because you have the new ignition weapon set that amplifies damage over, not damage over time, but basic attack damage, plus it decreases the enemy's defense. So I do feel like we are going to enter a stage where Netmarble, they're going to implement a new ignition weapon set that's going to amplify damage over time, and then they're going to introduce a support character that's going to enable other damage over time units to deal a lot more damage. I definitely see that happening because it happened to Kaiser. It happened to Novik. Novik was just When Novik first dropped, he was terrible. Like nobody used him. He was just bad. But as soon as Kaiser dropped, they dropped the basic attack ignition weapon set, and Novik got a lot better because he amplifies basic attack damage by a lot because of his ultimate, which is very, very good for basic attack damage dealing units. Plus, you have Lero as well, who amplifies basic attack damage. So that's just proof within itself that Netmarble, they're definitely working on, bringing damage over time into the meta. And is it going to happen later on this year? Yes, I think it's definitely going to happen later on this year because the amount of characters that they're releasing for second half 2024, it's a lot. Plus, they're going to be very powerful units. You have Calivan, you have White, Albelda. We also have collab characters. Man, imagine collab units dealing damage over time. How much you want to bet? This is just a theory, but how much you want to bet that for collab, the units that they're going to release, they're going to be damage over time units? If it's solo leveling, you guys know exactly where I'm going with this. The main character in solo leveling, he had a weapon where he can pretty much inflict bleed on the enemy. I think it was bleed or poison, something like that. But if the next collaboration is, solo leveling, is damage over time. Like damage over time is definitely going to pop off if we end up having solo leveling as the collab is like if we have solo leveling as the next collaboration event. So yeah, man, it's definitely a possibility. Plus you have units like Garam. Garam, the fact that she's able to amplify special move peers, she's enabling multiple DPS units to deal insane damage with their ultimate. You got Kaiser, you got Joaquin, you got so many characters who can deal insane damage with their ultimate thanks to Garam. Plus you have a Punisher in as well. So yeah, man, it's like whenever I see potential, team comps coming in the future, there are two things that needs to happen. Actually, three things. There has to be an ignition weapon set that's pretty much going to introduce the next I'll say the next meta into the game. And then we're gonna have a support character who's going to enable that next meta. And then we're also going to have units like DPS characters who can perform well within that new meta. So damage over time, they're taking steps. They're introducing characters who deal damage over time, but we're missing two more things, which is of course the ignition weapon and the support unit who's going to enable the damage over time units to do a lot of damage. So they're just taking it one step at a time. But I feel like Lilio, she was like the last step. She was the last step of them releasing damage over time units, and now they're going to move on to support damage over time buffers, which is going to be very, very sick overall. So that's pretty much all I wanted to go over. Literally explaining why I feel like they're going to implement, damage over time in the future. Is definitely possible. Like the amount of damage over time units they dropped in the game these past couple updates is insane. I'm pretty sure the first unit that they introduced as damage over time was Kaseya. I'm pretty sure, of course, Lurker Kim is number one because he was already in the game when it first dropped. But when it comes to them releasing new units, I think Kaseya was definitely the first unit that they dropped when it comes to bleed damage. So I do feel like this is definitely going to be good for the game, because if you guys are familiar with Honkai Star Rail, Honkai Star Rail, they introduced damage over time into the game, but it was completely terrible when the game first dropped. But once they dropped other units that can enable it, damage over time literally became the meta in that game. So I just hope, man, I hope they don't go wrong with this damage over time, because I see it happening. I see it happening. I see it, guys. I can read it. I can see it happening. It's just that they have to drop the right support characters, and they have to make the ignition weapon set. If you guys don't know, I'm pretty sure in October or September, I think October. In October, we're probably going to get two brand new ignition sets. They introduce new ignition weapons, I think every 2 months or every 3 months. I completely forgot. But they do drop new ignition weapon sets probably every 2 to 3 months. So in October, we're definitely going to get a new ignition weapon set, or September, who knows. And I have a huge feeling, man, it's probably going to be bleed, like additional bleed damage, or is going to be additional poison damage, or they're just going to mix both of them, just be like units who deal constant damage or damage over time, their damage will be amplified. So I just hope that, you know, they're they're sticking towards, like, they're walking on the right path here, and they don't fumble the bag if they're going to introduce damage over time into the game. We already got the characters. All we need is the right support characters, and we're cooking. We're cooking. We got a whole new meta coming into the game soon. This is just a theory, by the way. Like, this is not 100% confirmed, but based off of what I've seen so far, it is a possibility. It is definitely a possibility that damage over time will be the next meta. But hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't. I really appreciate it, and I'll be catching you guys on the next one. Peace.